Every year, like clockwork, Apple releases the latest and greatest iPhone, and this year was no different. Just last week, Apple announced the iPhone 14, and boy does this year's lineup have some amazing features. In today's video, we'll be looking at 10 of the best iPhone 14 features, comparing it to the iPhone 13 that came before it, as well as other flagship smartphones in the same price range. Make sure you watch the video to the end, as the feature we have for you in number 1 will truly blow your mind. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Number 10. iPhone Plus is back. If you're an OG Apple fan, you'll know that before the era of Pro and Pro Maxes, Apple released 2 versions of their phones, a standard version and a Plus version with a bigger display and battery. However, since Apple moved to the Pro model for their lineups, people who preferred bigger screens have had to splurge for the Pro Max, even when they couldn't take advantage of its Pro features. So, in response this year, Apple switched out the mini iPhone from the last 2 generations in favor of a 6.7-inch iPhone 14 Plus, and this thing looks amazing. Apart from the bigger screen, because this iPhone won't have the power-draining Pro features, it's also most likely going to have the best battery life of any iPhone to date, which is just incredible. If you've been hoping for a bigger iPhone without having to spend so much on the Pro Maxes, then this year is certainly the perfect year to upgrade. Number 9. New front-facing camera. For all my content creators out there, and basically anyone who loves to take videos with their front-facing camera, Apple continues to cement itself as the best option for you. Apple has put a new and improved lens in their front-facing camera that helps to absorb more light, which makes for great photos and videos, even when you're shooting in a dark environment. The camera is now also equipped with autofocus, which means that you can record videos and get that nice cinematic blurry background look without getting worried that your face is out of focus. Number 8. Crash detection. Apple seems to be focusing a lot on outdoor safety recently. In fact, they started their just-concluded event by reading out letters that people had sent to Tim Cook on how the Apple Watch had saved their lives or that of a loved one. And while we're not talking about the Apple Watch today, Apple has brought some of those safety features to the iPhone, one of which is crash detection. All iPhone 14 models will come equipped with a force sensor that can help detect when you've just been in a car crash. Once detected, your iPhone will offer to call emergency services for you, and if you don't respond after a moment, it'll do it automatically. This feature is truly amazing and definitely has the potential to save lives when in a car crash. Number 7. Satellite calls. The safety features don't end there. Say you're lost in a place where there's no cell service and you need to get to safety. With the new iPhone 14, you can now simply point your phone to the sky, connect to a satellite, and use that to send your location and a message to emergency services closest to you. It's honestly mind-blowing. Without internet or cell service, you can reach out to the proper authorities when in a pinch. To make using this feature easier, Apple designed a new UI that shows you exactly where the satellite is up in the sky, so you can point your iPhone at it to get a good signal. Then once it's connected, your phone will ask you a couple of questions about your condition and package your answers into a compact message that it sends to the appropriate emergency services so you get help. Number 6. Price. For all of these new features, Apple still maintained the same starting price of $799 for this year's iPhone 14, compared to last year's 13. In a year where things like inflation, chip shortages, and a looming recession could have been passable excuses for Apple to raise the price, the fact that they didn't has to be noteworthy at least. To complete the lineup, the iPhone 14 Plus will start at $899, iPhone 14 Pro at $999, and iPhone 14 Pro Max at $1,099. Number 5. A16 Bionic Chip. The next few features we'll be talking about are coming exclusively to the Pro and Pro Max variants of the iPhone 14, starting with the new A16 Bionic Chip. While the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus got the A15 Bionic with only a slight bump in graphical performance, the Pros got a completely new chipset, the A16, which is around 40% faster than the A15. When you consider the fact that the A15 was already the best chipset in a smartphone, this 40% increase in performance becomes even more incredible. Furthermore, the A16 also consumes less power than the A15, which means that not only will the 14 Pros be much faster, they'll also have much better battery performance compared to last year's models. Number 4. Always on display. I know all the Android fans out there would be screaming now that Android phones have had this for years, and well, they'll be right. But finally, after many years, Apple has brought the always-on display to the iPhone. However, just as you would expect, it's quite unlike any of the others that came before. With this, you don't get a dedicated always-on screen, but rather you just have a darker version of the lock screen that still has the ability to show real-time widgets and other information. Number 3. 48 megapixel camera. Another feature that has been on Android smartphones for years, Apple has finally moved away from their 12 megapixel camera to a much better 48 megapixel camera. As a result, you get a lot more detail in your photos and improved bokeh or background blur when taking portrait photos. You also get the ability to zoom in 2 times on your image while still retaining the sharpness and clarity of the image. Apple also announced its new image processing engine called the Photonic Engine, which together with these new cameras are meant to be able to capture the best pictures and videos in a smartphone. Number 2. Dynamic Island. The biggest physical change in the iPhone 14 Pro lineup this year is that finally, the infamous notch is gone. Many hated it, some were indifferent, and very few liked it. But finally, the notch is gone in favor of a whole cutout that Apple calls the Dynamic Island. And while the name might be cheesy, the implementation is definitely nothing to laugh about. This Dynamic Island is basically a section of your screen that acts as a dynamic widget, offering you on-the-fly controls and information when using certain apps. Plus, the animations are just so smooth that you can't help but fall in love with how this thing looks. I mean, just look at it. If you've been holding off on getting a new iPhone because you just couldn't bear to look at the notch, this is honestly the best time to jump right in. The ship has sailed and the Dynamic Island is our destination. Number 1. eSIM only. Alright, so this final feature is actually for all the phones in the iPhone 14 lineup, but we just put it last because it's truly a jaw-dropper. You heard right, the iPhone 14 no longer comes with a SIM tray. First off, we must say that this right now is only for the US market. So, if you're anywhere else in the world, your SIM tray is still fine. However, if you're in the US, say goodbye to physical SIMs as Apple is forcing us to embrace eSIMs today. Some people are on board with the idea and think it's about time, while others feel it's only going to make it more difficult to switch to other non-iPhones. What do you guys think? Is removing this SIM tray worth it? Or is this just another one of Apple removing a good feature just for the sake of it? Do let us know in the comments section down below. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. For more videos like this, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on the bell notification so you never miss an upload.